Guinea pigs super spies? More likely than you think. Not every team gains JLA or Avengers level fame. Here are some obscure superhero teams you've never seen before. Starting off under the water with the Sea Devils. This team was just regular people doing extraordinary things. They appeared in Showcase issue 27 in 1960, but got their own series the next year. The group was made of 4 people: Dane Dorrance, Judy Walton, Judy's younger brother Nicky Walton, and their friend Biff Bailey. The group primarily operated underwater since their job was deep sea diving and treasure hunting. They spent a lot of time living every kid's dream. They fought sea monsters and discovered underwater kingdoms. If I was guaranteed to never drown, I would join this team so quick. The group also fought for the sea on land as environmentalists. They are suggested to maybe be a bit extreme at times with their methods in the New 52 reboot, but they remain allies to Aquaman. The Displaced Paranormals, or DP7, got their powers from the infamous White Event. You could probably guess this from the team name, but there are 7 of them. White Events create new, extremely powerful heroes. And on this particular team, we have a man that can now project an intangible version of himself, a strong man, a speedster, a woman whom whoever she touches would just lose all friction and slide around, a boy who produced acid from his skin, a mom that can energize and heal anyone she touched, and a teacher that could paralyze you with the poison his body produces. The team grew and shrank over time and has had about 40 appearances total. Born out of an atomic fallout, the heroes of Lawler, they are a team of 5 heroes. Their parents lived a bit too close to the site of an atomic fallout and their genes were altered, resulting in their children all being born with superpowers. The kids were sent away from their home planet and decided to come to Earth. Dr. Marden King lied to the young heroes, making them think that the Legion of Superheroes were criminals. The reason? So Doc could avenge his brother's death. When a random group of space people started to attack the Legion, they also thought the heroes of Lawler were bad guys. They fought, but soon realized they were both fighting with good intentions and became friends instead. The powers of each team member were as follows: Beast Boy, turning into any animal, not to be confused though with the more popular Beast Boy, they're different. Gas Girl, she can change her body into any gas. Evolvo Lad, he can make his body go to any point in human evolution, so he can become like an ape or the kind of man humanity can't even imagine yet. Life Last can create living creatures from inanimate objects. And finally, Duplicate Boy, he can duplicate any hero's superpowers. Eventually the team makes it back to their home planet and even gained a new member, Splitter, or Arm Fall Off Boy. Up next, Operation Lightning Storm, a team that shockingly does not include Thor. It did include one of my favorite superheroes, Sleepwalker, and that is how I know about this obscure team that only has about 16 appearances. The team was led by Miss Marvel. After the events of Civil War, Tony Stark had requested that Carol lead the Mighty Avengers, to which she agreed to do, but only if she got a second team too. This team's purpose was to take out villains before they became an Avengers level threat. The team was a covert strike team that could access any SHIELD resource they wanted, even though they weren't technically part of the SHIELD official lineup. Members of the team included Carol Danvers as the leader, Machine Man, Sleepwalker, Agent Sum, Agent Locke, Agent Baines, and Doc Farrell. Notable missions include saving a bunch of kidnapped people in Miss Marvel Volume 2 issue 20, and then erasing a colony of Brood in issue 24. The reason this team has very limited appearances is because they captured an imposter Miss Marvel, that upon discovery of being an imposter, she hit self-destruct and took the team's base down with her. Doc Farrell and Agent Baines didn't make it. G-Force is up next, and I do not mean the unit of acceleration. I am instead referring to the 2009 feature film with its central cast being super intelligent spy guinea pigs. Here's the thing, I thought that we were all locked into G-Force. I thought everyone was also living with the knowledge that this wackadoodle movie exists. Imagine my shock and surprise upon being told that this was obscure media. Please, if you knew about G-Force before now, drop that in the comments section. I should do a poll or something. The official plot synopsis for this film, like the one on IMDb, is a specially trained squad of guinea pigs is dispatched to stop a diabolical billionaire from taking over the world. The FBI had a secret division responsible for training and then dispatching the rodents. Shockingly, the FBI decided that spy rodents wasn't a necessity, so they went to shut it down, causing the small spies to begin their hero's journey. Another reason that I thought everyone was well aware of this movie was because it had a star-studded cast. Some of the people in this movie had no business being in a super guinea pig movie. Bill Nye, Will Arnett, Zach Galifianakis, Nicolas Cage, Sam Rockwell, Jon Favreau, Penelope Cruz, Steve Buscemi, and Tracy Morgan all lent their face or voice to the Disney flick. This was also the first live live-action Disney film released in Disney Digital 3D that wasn't a concert film, so G-Force literally made history. Ever since discovering another animal team, the Power Pachyderms, they have crossed my mind at least once a week because it was so wild. So they were a team of super elephants. Now here's the thing, it's ridiculous, but that was the point. It was a parody comic of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Later, it was a parody of the X-Men and just general Marvel heroes. The OG team name was the Adult Thermonuclear Samurai Elephants, iconic. However, not everything went to plan. There were some significant delays, and so Marvel was forced to change the name and said they were now a parody of the X-Men. Either way, the team of four first appeared in Power Pachyderms issue 1 in 1989, and that's it. That's all we ever got. The issue itself was a gem. We learned the elephants were supercharged when their train car, bound for the zoo, was unhooked from the train by a monkey, and they happened to jump track to one that leads to a nuclear test zone. Then there's a big explosion that exposes the elephants to radiation, turning them into super elephants. They rejoin the circus briefly before heading off on their own, only to come back together to fight Clarinetto, former head of the Brotherhood of Musicians. The super elephants fight and defeat Clarinetto and his band of celebrity ninja impersonators. It was truly a piece of art. Wetworks, originally called Team 7, was a team published by Image Comics, which was later DC. Wetworks likely got its name from the actual term, meaning work involving the targeted elimination of an individual, so you can probably guess the team's vibe. If you guessed a covert operations team in the Wildstorm universe, then you get a gold star. Jackson Dane is team leader. Dane's team was sent out to raid a cave, but the cave was already raided when they got there. Nothing left except tubes filled with a mysterious gold liquid. Important to note, the team had a lot of remote-controlled weapons on them that happened to start a countdown to detonate when they were inside. So yeah, everything goes so wrong so fast. The tubes get broken, the liquid gets on the team and surrounds them, and then the explosives go off. But it turns out the liquid acted like protective armor because it was Sims. Adding a Sim to someone automatically makes them cooler, but you know what makes them even cooler than that? When they also fight vampires. Where did that come from? I don't know, we've lost the plot a little bit, but I'm not mad about it. Wetworks has been running across Eastern Europe single-handedly preventing a Twilight remake. They lost members along the way, even temporarily stopped their mission, but they regrouped and were called to Utah, of all places. Turns out someone was trying to make a Daemonite vampire hybrid. In the ensuing fight, the Sims all mutated and the Wetworks team started getting new powers and saved the day. Now you've heard of the Avengers, but turns out they weren't the first Avengers team Nick Fury created. Avengers 1959 were the OGs, and the team was all villains. Earth's mightiest heroes were, I guess, technically named after Earth's biggest headaches. Somehow I feel betrayed by this info, and I don't really have any personal stake in this game. The 1959 Avengers team was created by Nick Fury at the order of President Eisenhower. Team Constants include Nick Fury as leader, Sabretooth, Kraven the Hunter, Dominic Fortune, Namora, Bloodstone, and Silver Sable. This Avengers team is super interesting to me because, well, I love the vintage aesthetic, but also, Nick, what are you doing? Quite a few of the people on this team are certified menaces to society. I guess they were right for the missions they went on, which was like defeating Red Skull and his Yahtzee with an N Captain America, but Sabretooth? The team's efforts were pretty much focused on defeating various bad guys that belonged to the Yahtzees. Because the Avengers did so much good defeating all those bad guys, Nick pardoned all the past crimes of the team members. Controversial choice, but okay. The team operated in the 1950s but debuted in 2011. Dynamic duo Blue Falcon and Dynomutt of the Scooby-Doo extended universe are criminally underrated. They are literally just a guy and his dog out to save the world. Blue Falcon is a parody of Batman, specifically inspired by Adam West's. He doesn't have any superpowers, but he's so good at what he does, you would never need to know that. Blue Falcon and Dynomutt have appeared in their feature film, Scooby-Doo Mask of the Blue Falcon, among other Scooby-Doo media, including my favorite version in Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. In that show, Blue Falcon was Radley Crown, a security guard at Quest Labs with a taste for adventure, love for birds, and his trusty security dog sidekick Reggie. One day a villain broke in and Reggie was fatally wounded. Mr. Crown fought for his dog, and that is how he became the literal crime-stopping machine, Dynomutt. Now, he can create anything from his mechanical body with absolutely no limits. Blue Falcon is this huge, incredibly strong, intelligent man, bit rough around the edges, but you don't really mind. He's got all the gadgets, including a Falcon car and a bird-themed utility belt. The duo has taken on at least 30 guys at once without even breaking a sweat. And finally, the challengers of the unknown are very interesting to me. They were a bunch of normal guys with above-average jobs on a plane that were flying to go be guests on a radio show called Heroes. We had a master of skin diving, a circus daredevil, an Olympic wrestling champion, and a trained jet pilot and war hero. Quite the mix of people. Of course, the plane went down, but the Fab Four survived. After the crash, they all have that like, wow, we almost passed on moment, and decided that they should challenge the unknown together, live life to the fullest. Challenging the unknown is really what these guys did. They were a for-hire service, so they got hired once to open Pandora's box. Pandora's box is something you famously should not open. However, they were offered $1 million, so I get it. These guys start kind of taking on jobs that are too out there for others to handle or just too hard. They worked with the Pentagon of all places. They had created their home base in a mountain. The personification of evil actually came by and blew that up. At a certain point, the team just really did not catch a break. Eventually, there are new team members, a games designer, physicist, NASCAR driver, commercial pilot. What I love about this DC team are the people on the team are people. They had semi-regular jobs and just decided to start conquering challenges despite not receiving any superpowers.
Now, when we say that these teams deserve better, there really isn't a better example than the Harvesters. After the events of the superhuman Civil War, Iron Man created the 50-State Initiative. This was essentially an initiative to set up government-funded superhero teams throughout each of the United States. Some of these teams were already established groups of heroes, but for some states, completely new groups composed of local heroes were formed. The Sunflower State, Kansas, gained its team in the form of the Harvesters. This new team was made up of pretty strange heroes that we hadn't seen before. Topeka, who led the team, was basically just a super soldier. Then there was Pioneer, who had the power of the plains, as she put it. Sunflower, who was literally a human sunflower who got stronger under direct sunlight and appeared to have a high degree of durability. There was Meadowlark, who could fly and sing to hypnotize people. And then, of course, there was Grainbelt, whose body was literally made of grain that he could control. Why did they deserve better? Well, this team's only claim to fame came when they faced off against a zombie clone of the hero Hyperion, who is basically the Marvel equivalent of Superman, and he utterly destroyed each member of this team. They did not stand a single chance. Only Pioneer just barely made it out alive by raising up an entire herd of undead cattle and trampling the zombie Hyperion, who then succumbed to mad cow disease, and I wish I made that up. Now, most of you nerds have heard about the Skrulls. This alien race has been a nuisance in Marvel Comics ever since their first appearance in Fantastic Four #2. The Skrull members who fought the Four at this time ended up hypnotized into believing they were actually cows by Reed Richards, and they shapeshifted into and were stuck as cows. What I'm sure Reed did not anticipate is that these Skrull cows ended up finding themselves in a butcher and turned into beef. This Skrull beef was then consumed by regular old Earthlings. Now, while a good majority of people did not survive the Skrull cow meat, a select few did, and had the Skrull's adaptable DNA code transferred into their human cells, resulting in a condition called Skrullivoria-induced Skrullophobia. The infected individuals gained the ability to shapeshift like a Skrull, but also developed an intense irrational fear and hatred of the Skrull, and they came together to form the aptly named Skrull Kill Crew. Fueled by their irrational impulses to destroy the Skrull, they helped prevent the Skrulls from attacking other people, but they even faced off against other villains like Baron von Strucker. It's just a really unfortunate way to gain a superpower. Now, X-Force is the awesome Black Ops X-Men related team with characters like Domino and Cable and Cannonball and Wolverine and Warpath, and it's awesome. But for a short little while, it was decidedly not awesome. In the year 2000, X-Force got cancelled and rebranded into what eventually would become X-Statix. This team isn't exactly one of the premier mutant teams in the world, and that's putting it lightly. The original team was made up of the mutants Zeitgeist, who has the power of Super Puke, La Nuit with Dark Force powers, Battering Ram, who was a big purple goat looking man, Plasm, who had liquidy water powers, Gin Genie, who could create earthquakes depending on how much she drank, and Sluck, who was basically a squid man. But all of those original members, minus 3 of them who I didn't mention, and Sluck, who was blown up by a tank in South Africa, all got completely decimated in spectacularly embarrassing fashion during a rescue mission to save a pop music boy band named Boys R Us. Turns out their demise was actually planned by the team's manager, coach, and its leader, leader, Zeitgeist, because they thought a team with a constantly changing roster and high body count would gain them fan interest. The team managed to go on with pretty horrible results. There have been 28 members of Ecstatics who have passed away over their history, with only 9 surviving. 9. Okay, so we have Ecstatics, we have X-Force, we have the X-Men of course, and we have a whole handful of other X-branded teams, but some mutants aren't considered presentable to the outside world because whatever their mutation is, it has been deemed either gross or terrifying by the wider Marvel human society, or they are mutants who are just bitter about being persecuted for being mutants. This group banded together, named themselves the Morlocks, and headed down into the Morlock tunnels beneath New York City. Already, without anything happening to them other than their mutations, these characters have it rough and deserve better. But then, to add flame to the fire, the Morlocks undergo tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, with one of the worst being the event known as the Mutant Massacre, where Mr. Sinister and the Mutant Gambit put together a group of villainous characters and led them into the tunnels to commit, well, a massacre. And it was all because another villain, Dark Beast, created some of these Morlocks, and Mr. Sinister didn't like that. Sometimes it takes the smallest of things to bring people together, and while that may sound like an extremely beautiful sentiment, I'm saying it in relation to the villainous team known as the Headmen, who it seems came together because each of their powers revolves around their heads in one way or another, and it's honestly kind of unsettling in my opinion. Putting their heads together, figuratively, not literally, these scientists sought out world domination, bringing them into conflict with the Defenders, She-Hulk, and Spider-Man. The quartet consisted of Arthur Nagin, their leader, who had his head transplanted onto the body of a gorilla; Ruby Thursday, who replaced her own head with an organic computer capable of changing shape; Gerald Morgan, aka Shrunken Bones, who accidentally shrank his own skeleton, including his skull, so he basically just had really baggy skin; and Chandu the Mystic's head had been transplanted by Nagin onto a number of different bodies throughout his time, making him quite the versatile little guy. Not gonna lie. The Champions of Los Angeles were the first West Coast based superhuman team. They formed like all great superhero teams do, with several heroes happening to just meet by chance against a great threat. In this case, that threat took the form of the Greek god of death, Pluto. The group consisted of 2 former X-Men, Angel and Iceman, the Greek god of strength, Hercules, who I swear is super underappreciated, Johnny Blaze, the original Ghost Rider, and the Russian spy Black Widow, who led the team. After defeating Pluto, the Champions of Los Angeles, or just the Champions, decided to stick together as a team. Warren Worthington III, aka Angel, was the wealth behind the group, and with his money they bought their own Quinjet and named it the Champ Jet, which I find hilarious because over time the members of this team started to become embarrassed by the entire idea of the team as a whole. Both Iceman and Angel called it an embarrassment and a nightmare because they had no idea what they were doing. But still, they had a few more adventures working with X-Force, and they had some additions to the roster with Black Goliath, who aided the team in a scientific aspect, and another Russian female hero, Darkstar, who was originally there to capture Black Widow but ended up changing sides instead. I'm gonna be honest, I kinda love the lineup of this team. I'd read it if they came back. Now you remember how the Headmen all came together based on their head-related powers? Well, I'll do you one better. How about the Death Throws, whose powers and names all have something to do with commonly throwing stuff. The leader, ringleader, threw together teammates Bombshell, Knick-Knack, Oddball, Tenpin, and Throwdown into a group that honestly works really well together, juggling their various different throwing instruments between each other. They worked so well together, in fact, that they were even hired to and succeeded in breaking the villain Crossfire out of prison. However, once they had taken Crossfire to their HQ, they discovered that Crossfire was broke. His assets had all been impounded, and he had lost all of his useful connections. These guys did battle with characters like Captain America, Crossfire, Hawkeye, and even Loki of all people, who stopped the group from robbing the Big Top Casino in Las Vegas. Their Marvel wiki even lists their origins as, and I quote, a joint effort to perform criminal and mercenary acts while using juggling expertise. I honestly can't even believe this group of villains exists and that they haven't been able to get Bullseye into their ranks. What the heck's up with that? Okay, of all the teams on this list, I think that Horticulture may be my favorite. For starters, they look so cool, but then you find out that it's actually just a bunch of older women between the the ages of 64 to 81 who are all expert botanists and want to bring Earth back to a more pristine time when it had about 7 billion less people on it, and it was ruled by plant life. I just love how they use their regular names, and the names just kinda suit their ages and interests in plants. We got Augusta Bromes, Lily Lamus, Edith Scutch, and Opal Vetiver. Gosh! What a bunch of winners. But yes, that's right, these ladies want to basically exterminate most of the Earth's human population and bring plants back to the forefront, specifically flowers. This goal brings them into conflict with the X-Men in 2019's X-Men #3. Beyond biological modifications believed to have been made to themselves, the women of horticulture are experts at manipulating the environment to suit their extinction agenda, and they're also computer programmers selling software to Orcus to monitor Krakoan gateways. They did get pretty handily walloped though, so Second to last, as part of kid-centric Star Comics, Marvel decided to release a team composed of animal superheroes, which is cool. But the difference here is this team of animal heroes were cybernetically enhanced super intelligent animals with absolutely massive arsenals and awesome exoskeletons, which is much cooler. And they fought for the environment, which is even cooler. This team was made up of Boomer, a kangaroo, Lionheart, a lion, Soar/Slipstream, an eagle, Reckless, who was a bear, and Dr. Echo/Surfstreak, who was a dolphin. Does it sound kind of ridiculous? Sure, but it is awesome. This team was co-created by Multicore, spearheaded by Dr. Randall Pierce, and it was all part of Weapons 2, which itself was the second project after Weapon 1. Who would have thought? Also known as Project Rebirth, also known as the project that created Captain America. Now some of you may know that these projects were part of a bigger thing called Weapons Plus, who would eventually go on to create Man-Thing, Luke Cage, Nuke, Typhoid Mary, Phantom X, the Stepford Cuckoos, and of course, Wolverine. So most people know that they aren't exactly a good group of people. While their original series was cancelled after only a few issues in Wolverine and Captain America Weapons Plus #1, those two heroes investigated an abandoned Weapons Plus site where they found the team kept in hibernation tanks full of liquid. The bear, Reckless, was freed from his container but attacked the duo, resulting in his passing. And last up today, first ever introduced in 1989's West Coast Avengers Volume 2 #46, the Great Lake Avengers formed after Mr. Immortal put out an ad in the local personals seeking men and women of action to join forces and form a team of super friends. This managed to catch the attention of Avengers members Hawkeye and Mockingbird. In order to help them out, the Great Lakes Avengers were trained by the duo, and the rest was history. The team is made up of pretty much Z-list heroes, with the main lineup usually consisting of Mr. Immortal, Doorman, Big Bertha, and Flatman. Naturally, as a sort of running joke throughout Marvel Comics since their introduction, the team goes up against some of the zaniest villains and situations I have ever seen, and they don't do particularly well. But I'll be darned if I don't have a soft spot for this team. The funny thing about most joke characters and teams is that they almost always end up actually doing some pretty extraordinary things from time to time. I can't think of any examples for the Great Lake Avengers, but I'm sure you guys can, and you can tell me about it in the comments below.
We are kicking things off with A-Force, a force to be reckoned with. This team made Marvel history as it was their first ever all-female team. Marvel premiered this epic team-up in 2015's Secret Wars crossover storyline, so 2015 was the first all-female team. Marvel was founded in 1939. Marvel finally took a page out of the Incredibles' Elastigal's book, Leave the Saving of the World to the Men. I don't think so. The A-Force team members are as follows: Captain Marvel, Dazzler, Medusa, She-Hulk, Singularity, and Nico Monroe. This lineup is so incredible, I can't get over it. The team was formed piece by piece, but the majority of their battles were against antimatter. When Singularity appeared on Earth 616, so did antimatter, and this Singularity opposite is out to destroy her. Obviously, the girls don't let that happen, and he is dispersed into tiny particles. The team couldn't stay together forever, though they had a good run. The end of the wiki for this team cites some reasons as to why the team members left, and it goes from 0 to 100 so quick. It reads, the team remained together for some time, but eventually disbanded, with Jennifer dropping superhero activities and Medusa going to space. See what I mean? It's like, oh, Jennifer just wanted a break, cool, don't blame her. Then they hit you with Medusa left because she was going to space. Good for you, Queen, I guess. One woman who was offered a spot on the Super Squad that she likely didn't take was Tigra. Jessica Jones was allegedly hurt by her lack of invitation, which I completely understand. I would also love to receive an invite to this party. I am curious though, comment below which Avengers team invite you would accept. The Avengers have the unpleasant life experience of having their super identities stolen, and by some of their worst enemies no less. The Dark Avengers are exactly what they sound like, darker, eviler versions of the heroes we know and love. In the aftermath of the Skrull invasion, Norman Osborn is head of the 50 States Initiative, the Thunderbolt Initiative, and S.H.I.E.L.D. He was supposed to be reformed, but even then, I'm taking this away from him. I don't know why they gave it to him in the first place. During his time in these roles, he created the Dark Avengers. Some of the Dark Avengers were villains that took on the title of a major hero, so Venom pretended to be Spider-Man, Bullseye took on Hawkeye, you get it. This was done so the villains could gain more hero legitimacy in the public eye. People trusted the names, and plus it helped hide their criminal past, so it's a win-win situation for them. Osborn was also a part of the team. He did so wearing an Iron Man suit he painted to look similar to Captain America and called himself the Iron Patriot. The team was created in 2009 and was over in 2013. The West Coast Avengers might get some of the weirder villains to deal with, but they do handle them well. The team was created because the OG Avengers team couldn't handle how many members it had. There were always too many people sitting on the bench, and America's a huge country, so making another team of Avengers makes perfect sense. The West Coast Avengers have been around for about 40 years now, debuting in 1984. Hawkeye was deemed the leader of this team, and the team was a little on and off, disbanding for a while but ultimately reforming later. Because it is an official Avengers team, many heroes have joined over the years. Some of the OG members were Tigra, War Machine, and Mockingbird, and Hawkeye, of course. Other team member highlights include Moon Knight, Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, and The Thing. Plus, literally so many more people. Some people might not take West Coast Avengers as seriously as the Avengers, but they are still just as capable as the main team, defeating more minor threats like desert fixtures come to life and bigger problems like Kraven the Hunter and Doctor Doom. Everyone should pay attention to the Great Lakes Avengers, especially if you're someone who doesn't take life too seriously. The team is quirky and full of the type of characters you might be surprised to see Marvel create. A little controversial for one of them too, like Big Bertha, for example, a character that fights by modifying her body's weight and size to get stronger and become a bigger opponent. That's chill in the eyes of most. It's the way she has to get rid of said body after fights that make people cringe. She has to throw everything up, which many say is making fun of eating disorders. Not hard to see why. The other team's characters of past and present are slightly less controversial though. Mr. Immortal, you can guess what he has going for him. He's the leader typically. Then there's Doorman, he's a teleporter. Flatman, again, self-explanatory, he's flat. Dinosaur was once on the team. She's a pink dinosaur person, iconic. Hawkeye and Mockingbird once worked with the team. A hero named Grasshopper joined and then promptly joined the afterlife. Squirrel Girl was interested at one point. The team has worked with many heroes, but I think their time with Deadpool has to be my favorite. They just really match each other's energy. Deadpool's style of writing and comedy just fit perfectly with the quirkiness of the team. The team was on board with the Superhuman Registration Act, and through signing it, they became the official government-sanctioned protectors of Wisconsin. And that is also how I learned Wisconsin is on the Great Lakes. For some reason, I thought it was a southern state. And before anyone calls me silly, I am from Canada, and I have not dedicated much time to finding Wisconsin on a map, which I do apologize for. I'm not just putting the Great Lakes Avengers on this list because Toronto is also on a Great Lake, but they are actually quite fun, so check them out if you do have the time. A team created for the most sensible of reasons, Ultimate 616, was created to stop threats before they hit Earth. If non-violent means can be used to stop those threats, even better. It's about time that a team of super people focused on prevention. The team debuted in 2015 and was proposed by Captain Marvel. She took her proposal to Black Panther, he liked it, he suggested Blue Marvel receive an invitation to join. Blue Marvel joined. Blue Marvel recommended Spectrum. Spectrum joined. Finally, Spectrum suggested Miss America, and Miss America joined too. Most members were chosen for the team because they had a good knowledge of the cosmos and its threats. Since the team was going to specialize in potential cosmic threats to Earth, it better be filled with people that understand cosmic threats. Sure enough, one of the team's first missions was one of the biggest cosmic threats of all, Galactus. Galactus's hunger, to be specific. You may or may not know, Galactus eats planets. He doesn't necessarily want to, but he does need to do that. To his joy and the joy of every planet in the cosmos, the Ultimates fix this problem. They trap Galactus in his old incubator. Using the methods used to create Galactus, they accelerate the process and out comes a new version of him. Instead of destroying life, he is now a life bringer, even restoring planets he's eaten. The ultimate happy ending. Turns out, the Avengers we are familiar with weren't the first Avengers team Nick Fury created. Somehow, I feel supremely betrayed by this info, and I really don't have any personal stake in this. The 1950s Avengers team was created by Nick Fury at the order of President Eisenhower. The team was made up of Sabretooth, Kraven the Hunter, Dominic Fortune, Namora, Bloodstone, and Silver Sable. Others who have worked alongside or on the team are Blonde Phantom and Dum Dum Dugan. This Avengers team was super interesting to me because Nick, what are you doing? Quite a few of the people in this team are certified menaces to society, or at least have been to some of the most popular heroes in Marvel history. I guess they were right for the missions they went on, defeating Red Skull and his Yahtzee with an N Captain America. Their efforts were pretty much focused on just like defeating various bad guys that belonged to that group of people. Because the group did so much good defeating all those bad guys, when Nick disbanded the Avengers 1950, he pardoned all the past crimes of the team members. Controversial choice, but okay. The team operated in the 1950s but debuted in 2011. What happens when you mix the Avengers with the X-Men? You get the Avengers Unity Division. This Avengers team was created after the Avengers X-Men War. Captain America realized the divide between mutants and the Avengers was too wide, so he decided to create a team containing both groups to bridge that gap. There were quite a few heroes that joined the squad. The three leaders it had at one point or another were Captain America, Havoc, and Rogue. Other notable members include Beast, Human Torch, Scarlet Witch, Wolverine, Spider-Man, Vision, Wasp, and a whole lot more. The team's first problems came from Red Skull. Unsurprisingly, all Red Skull seems to do is bother people and be on the wrong side of history. Red Skull mainly caused issues this time by mind controlling and brainwashing powered people like Avalanche and Thor. The team has fought many battles and is still active. One of the more recent fights happened after the attack on the third Hellfire Gala. Steve and the surviving mutants came together to prevent the world from being destroyed by evil Hydra Steve and giving the X-Men a chance to get the upper hand on Orcus. Everyone should start directing their attention to the Young Avengers, or if you're already there, stay there, because the Young Avengers might be joining the MCU sooner than we think, and we should be prepared. The reason I say this is because the new Marvel series, Agatha All Along, has confirmed that Wiccan will be in it, played by Joe Locke. Wiccan is part of the Young Avengers. Some other Young Avengers members have already made their on-screen debut, including Kate Bishop in the Hawkeye show, and Miss America in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and Wiccan's brother Tommy in WandaVision, of course, alongside Wiccan. The Young Avengers in the comics were formed by Iron Lad. He did this using the Avengers Failsafe program. It's designed to recruit the next generation of heroes. The team might be young, but they are powerful and charming and have taken on some major threats with success. It will be interesting to see how they make the jump onto the screen now. The movie has been confirmed, but filming is rumored to have not started just yet. The Avengers usually stand up for society, but they once tried to destroy it, but it isn't their fault, I guess. They did get their personalities magically flipped. The flipping didn't just affect them though. Some of the biggest villains in Marvel history suddenly became a team of good guys. I'm talking about the Astonishing Avengers. Created in 2014, the Astonishing Avengers might look deceiving, but I promise they fight for good. To get into why the team was created, Red Onslaught mind-controlled Iron Man into creating Sentinels to fight heroes that were designed with heroes' weaknesses in mind. Magneto created a team of villains to fight against Red Onslaught because he was just a common enemy and coming after the villains as well. Some of the villains recruited included Carnage, Doctor Doom, Hobgoblin, Sabretooth, and Enchantress, and more. During the epic battle between the heroes, villains, and Sentinels, Red Onslaught was defeated when Scarlet Witch and Doctor Doom casted a spell that inverted his personality. It defeated him, that's great, but the problem, the spell got a little out of control, just a little, and flipped everyone's personality, everyone on the battlefield that is. So now Magneto and co are the good guys and the heroes that we love are the bad guys. This is when Magneto and co become the Astonishing Avengers. Steve Rogers wasn't at the fight, so he was unaffected, thank God. A Cap that's as evil as he is righteous and good would collapse the world in a second, I fear, but Cap was able to Avengers assemble the team of now good villains to fight the evil heroes and help return them to normal. The good villains were so so good, they even recorded a video that would clear the names and excuse the actions of the flipped heroes, saying they manipulated them against their will. That is so kind. Another spell is cast in the middle of the second big fight, and everyone is sent back to normal. And finally, everyone should know, the Avengers. The most popular version has Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Black Widow, Hawkeye, and the Hulk. This version of the team was made popular by the MCU and all its marketing and the wonderful acting performances. But what might come as a surprise to anyone who is more into the movies than into the comics is that the OG Avengers lineup was a bit different from the films. The original Avengers were Iron Man, the Hulk, Thor, Ant-Man, and the Wasp. So while Ant-Man and the Wasp didn't come into the movies until way after the first Avengers film, they were founding members back in the day. But it wasn't Scott Lang and Hope Pym's version, it was the first people that took on the role, Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne. Captain America did join for the fourth Avengers issue of the comics, but he wasn't there for the birth of the team the way that he was in the movies. The Avengers were actually the ones who found him in the ice, and he woke up and immediately threw hands with them, but they got over it though.
Massive teleporting inhuman bulldog Lockjaw happens to stumble on the mind gem and is granted telepathy. Using this telepathy to read Mr. Fantastic's mind, he decides to use his other power to go and round up the other gems. Along the way, Lockjaw runs into Hairball the cat belonging to Speedball, the dragon Lockheed, the companion of Kitty Pryde, Redwing, Falcon's pet Falcon, Throg, a frog with the powers of Thor, Zabu, the saber-toothed tiger ally of the Savage Lands Khazar, and Miss Lion, May Parker's dog. Despite the fact that this team are literally just super pets, they decide to team up as the Pet Avengers, and they go off to assemble the Infinity Gems as part of a 4-part limited series. A more recent Earth 616 version of the team from 2021 consisted of Lockjaw, Throg, and Lockheed still, but this time accompanied by Doctor Strange's ghost dog Bats, and Hugin and Munin, the Ravens of Thor, formerly belonging to Odin.
This X-Men team and roster, the Extreme X-Men, marked the return of Chris Claremont to the X-Men in a full-time capacity. Extreme X-Men Volume 1 is a series that started in 2001 and ran until 2004. It was a team that featured my girl Rogue as leader, who is soon going to be the leader of the X-Men again, or a X-Men team, which, you know, I'm all about because I love Rogue. The original Extreme X-Men roster features Beast, Psylocke, Bishop, Storm, Sage, and Thunderbird. Lifeguard, Gambit, and Slipstream were also added into the mix throughout the series. This team was originally brought together to find Destiny's premonition-filled diaries, but of course along the way was distracted by many other imminent threats, as happens when you're an X-Men team.
There have been several incarnations of the Outsiders in DC Comics, and most have been Batman or Batman family related, with one team even being led by Nightwing. The first ever version of the team came in 1983 after Batman gained a rather uncomfortable standing with the Justice League. The team had some notable moments, particularly because of its new characters like Katana and Geoforce. Batman and the Justice League would patch things up, and so he left the team to continue operating without him. During that time, they were operating in Markovia in order to receive funding and then moved to Los Angeles before they reunited with Batman and gained access to a Los Angeles Batcave. The last version of the team came following Batman Rip in 2008, where Alfred put together the team with each member representing a part of Batman's legacy, but obviously Batman actually never really bites the dust permanently, so that didn't really last.
Cape Sync is a superhero team, or really a superhero agency I guess I should say, from the same world as Invincible. In fact, as early on as issue number 8 of the Invincible series, you can see some of their members featured in the background. Not only that, but they also ended up getting their own spin-off comic as well. Although I believe it only lasted 3 issues total. It was a miniseries. You know, that's how it goes sometimes. Though there were Cape Sync backup stories I believe in certain issues of Invincible as well, so if you really like it you can also check those out, which also told the team's story. The miniseries centered initially around Bolt, who welcomes a new recruit to the team as his partner. The team is more like a business and kind of seems to operate kind of like a superpowered police station or a police office. People even get paid and everything. Kid Thor is the new kid in town who joins up with Bolt. Bolt, we learn initially wanted his name to be Black Samson, but obviously that name was already taken by the Guardians of the Globe members, so alas, it was unavailable when he joined up with Cape Sync, and that's why he's Bolt.
The team known as Force Works was formed by Iron Man, who had left the Avengers due to a dispute as to the role of superhumans. Force Works maintained the outlook that rather than being a reactionary force, they should try to preempt both natural and man-made disasters. The team was initially composed of Iron Man, US Agent, Spider-Woman, Julian Carpenter, Scarlet Witch, and Wonder Man, which in my opinion is such an interesting group of heroes. but by the end of their first mission, Wonder Man was thought to be deceased at the hands of the invading Kree, and shortly after the alien Sentry took his place, only to be completely forgotten when the team disbanded. The team fought in several skirmishes, but really only lasted about 2 years. The characters were mainly reabsorbed into the ranks of the Avengers afterwards.
I like to refer to this next one as the other XSE team. This team also spiraled out of a team that we talked about previously on this list, Extreme X-Men. XSE here stands for the Extreme Sanctions Executive. Similar to the original XSE that Bishop was a part of in the future, or in his future, this team is also like a military police force, meant to maintain and in some cases enforce peace is kept between mutants and humans. Storm was asked to create the team by the United Nations and eventually would increase its numbers by recruiting the rest of her X-Men, making this another government-sanctioned mutant team, like X-Factor was originally. Team members have included Bishop, Cannonball, Magma, Rachel Summers, Psylocke, Rogue, Sage, Wolverine, X-23, and Gambit. Now that's a team.
Look, even though the book was cancelled in 1978 after a mere 17 issues, and many people, including the heroes on the team, look at it as an embarrassment, the Champions roster was actually pretty darn capable. With a team of 2 founding X-Men, Iceman and Angel, combined with heavy hitters Hercules, the Spirit of Vengeance Ghost Rider, and being led by Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, the Champions were aptly named and could kick some serious butt when given the opportunity. The team fought familiar villains like Titanium Man and the Griffin, but even began to develop their own rogues gallery with new villains such as Rampage and Swarm, and they even got an addition to the team in the form of Black Goliath before the book was cancelled. The team was intended to reform in 2007, only they were forced to rename as The Order since Marvel had lost the trademark for the Champions over the years.
You've heard of Green Lanterns, maybe you've even heard of Yellow Lanterns or Red Lanterns or even Black Lanterns, but how about Blue Lanterns? Yeah, that's a color too. Blue Lanterns have only made a few appearances in the new continuity, and even before that, during the New Earth days of DC, they weren't necessarily the most frequent to appear. Mainly, I feel like people just know Green Lanterns, whose color of course represents willpower. To be a Green Lantern, you must be strong in will. So, what's blue about? What's the whole blue thing? To be a Blue Lantern, you must be full of hope. So beautiful. I feel like I could be a Blue Lantern, honestly. If Green Lanterns are like the intergalactic police, Blue Lanterns are like therapists or peacekeepers or priests maybe. They have long been allies to the Green Lanterns, and their powers actually provide a boost to fellow Green Lanterns when they're nearby. Pretty cute. This is because their whole focus is of course on belief and hope, having faith in those around them. As such, many of their names start with a title like Saint, Sister, or Brother. I'd definitely be Sister. Sister Amanda, Blue Lantern. Sister McKnight.
Kind of like the Champions, DC's Detroit League is another team that gets a real bad rap, but actually has a pretty stacked roster when you take a closer inspection. After Aquaman, a charter member of the original Justice League, decided that the Justice League members were too interested in their own individual problems to be part of an effective team, he used his position to disband the team and establish the Detroit League. This new team, with half old-timers and half newbies, was largely used to add some diversity to the DC heroic lineup. Whether it achieved that or not is up to the reader. Made up of League mainstays like Martian Manhunter, Aquaman, Zatanna, and Elongated Man, along with newbies like Vibe, Gypsy, Vixen, and Commander Steel, it's often considered the worst roster of the team, but if you actually look at the roster and do some critical thinking, you'll find that it's very powerful indeed. Martian Manhunter and Zatanna alone are absolute powerhouses. Despite the jokes, Aquaman or even Commander Steel both make really effective tanks, and the rest of the team is quite capable in a variation of different situations.
The God Squad is about as powerful as they sound, but they still remain one of the lesser known teams in the Marvel Universe. The team was originally assembled by the Council of Godheads, and first came together during the events of Secret Invasion. The team first formed in the Incredible Hercules issue number 117 in 2008. The original roster included Adam the Demogorge, Snowbird, the Eternal Ajax, and Amatsu Mikaboshi, later known as, of course, the Chaos King. The roster would go on to include such impressive members as Silver Surfer, Galactus, Circe, Thor, Amadeus Cho, and of course, Hercules himself.
Number 10, Alpha Flight. This is for sure the least obscure entry on the list, as I choose to talk about them constantly, and Alpha Flight has been somewhat reinvented in the last few years and changed into an international space force being led by Captain Marvel, but we are talking about the original team. First appearing in X-Men number 120, Alpha Flight was Canada's answer to the Avengers, with members with unique abilities from all over Canada. Unlike most super teams who are always working together, Alpha Flight operated in more of a Mission Impossible James Bond kind of style, by choosing heroes from their roster and assigning each of them to specific missions that they would handle as individuals and pairs, only coming together as a full team in the case of extreme threats. Despite multiple tries by Marvel to give the team their own ongoing series, Alpha Flight has never quite caught on in the States. Perhaps they are just too specifically Canadian for a readership who tends to prefer American-centric stories, or maybe they just haven't been given the right push into the mainstream. Either way, Alpha Flight remains a team that not a huge amount of readers have heard of, and even fewer have actually read. Although, they did appear in one episode of the classic X-Men cartoon. Small victories. Number 9, ForceWorks. When it was determined that the Avengers' ever-expanding roster should be better divided up across the United States, rather than everyone working out of New York, the West Coast Avengers were formed. This experiment didn't end up working out, and the team was soon disbanded. In a typically Tony Stark move, Tony Stark decided that he should instead fund and create his own superhero team to help protect the West Coast. The resulting team was ForceWorks. The original team consisted of Iron Man, Spider-Woman, Wonder Man, and US Agent, with Scarlet Witch being chosen as the team leader. The team operated for a while, taking on threats like the Mandarin and Kang the Conqueror, but the team was plagued with internal issues. Despite Scarlet Witch being the team leader, Iron Man was constantly undermining her authority and forcing the team to carry out his personal vendettas. This attitude culminated in him forcing the team to brutally kidnap Hawkeye, which got him booted from the team. ForceWorks carried on without him for a while, but eventually decided to disband, although they were briefly brought back under the leadership of Maria Hill in order to fight the Robot Revolution. ForceWorks is an obscure offshoot of the already relatively obscure West Coast Avengers, however they did serve as the supporting cast for Iron Man's 90s animated series. Number 8, The Outlaws. Not to be confused with the team from DC Comics, Marvel's Outlaws are a group of heroes, all with a criminal past, who are led by Spider-Man and Silver Sable. The group formed when photographic evidence came out implicating Spider-Man in a robbery. Wanting to prove the innocence of the man who had helped them reform, Prowler, Rocket Racer, Will-O-the-Wisp, Paladin, and Sandman all began searching for evidence that would prove the webbed wall crawler's innocence. They discovered that Spidey was actually working for Silver Sable, and that what he had stolen was actually incriminating evidence against a member of the Maggia crime family. Impressed with the group's skills, Silver Sable brought them on as freelancers, and the team would occasionally come together, usually whenever Spider-Man was being framed or something and needed support from outside of the Avengers. Although some of the various members of the team are relatively well-known characters, their team isn't well known, as they come together so rarely and haven't teamed up since 1991. Number 7, Cyforce. When a telepathic CIA agent named Emmett Proudhawk had a vision about 5 young people with psychic abilities being protected by a hawk, he decided to track down the people in his vision and bring them together to become Cyforce. He got most of them together but was killed by a Russian operative. The 5 psychic youths discovered that when they all touched Proudhawk's mystic medallion, it summoned a creature called the Cyhawk, who would help them defeat their enemies. You know, like Captain Planet. The youths worked together to defeat an evil Russian paranormal named Rodstov, and they were chased by members of the CIA, the KGB, and a shadowy organization called the Medusa Web, who eventually brought the kids on as freelance agents. Although they had their own 32-issue series, the fact that this Marvel team has no recognizable superheroes and is based in Earth 148,611 rather than the mainstream Earth 616 universe keeps them pretty obscure. Number 6, Force of July. The first DC entry on this list, Force of July were an Americana-themed group who often found themselves at odds with the Outsiders. The Force answered to the American Security Agency and were tasked with eliminating anyone whose activities were deemed to be subversive to America's interests by any means necessary. Some of the team's members include Lady Liberty, Silent Majority, Sparkler, Mayflower, and their leader, Major Victory. Although they aren't technically villains, their fanatic patriotism prevented them from seeing that they were being manipulated by their handler, who was using them to help his scheme to create a satellite called Project Orwell that would have been used to spy on people using their televisions. This plot was stopped by the Outsiders, and the Force of July later found themselves fighting against the Suicide Squad, who killed Sparkler and Mayflower. The remaining members ended up joining the squad but did not last long on the team's roster. Number 5, the Inferior Five. Coming from Earth 12 in the DC multiverse, this team are the Nepo babies of a team of heroes called the Freedom Brigade. When the Freedom Brigade retired, the heroes encouraged their children to follow in their footsteps, and they started a team dedicated to protecting the people of Megaopolis. Known as the Fearsome Five, the members of this team, Awkward Man, Blimp, Dumb Bunny, and Whitefeather, have somewhat useless and conflicting powers, and although they usually manage to save the day, it is usually a result of dumb luck rather than skill. Their lameness led to the people of Megalopolis calling their champions the Inferior Five, which the team eventually decided to adopt as their official name. In Crisis on Infinite Earths, their world was destroyed, and as a result they were sent to comic book limbo, which is a realm similar to the Island of Misfit Toys, where characters who are written out of continuity remain until they're brought back into continuity. Number 4. The League of Losers. In the Marvel Universe of Earth 6215, a time-traveling villain from the future named Kronoke used his knowledge of the past to travel back in time to the present with an army and kill all of Earth's mightiest heroes. Fortunately, the records he was working off of did not include any reference to these C-list Marvel characters because none of them had ever done anything that was worthy of note. Darkhawk, Speedball, Dagger, Terror, X-23, Gravity, and Sleepwalker were thus able to take on Kronoke and travel back to before the villain had stolen his time travel tech and stop him. Although this stranded the team in the future, it also created a divergent timeline known as Earth 2992, where the villain's scheme was never an issue. Wow, time travel can be such a pain to explain. Number 3. Section 8. One of the strangest teams in the DC universe, Section 8 is a group of what I will very generously call heroes who operate out of Gotham City. Each member of the team is more bizarre than the last, so buckle up. Shakes is a schizophrenic with a speech impediment. Jean de Baton is a stereotypical Frenchman who hits people with a baton. Defenestrator is a massive former Arkham inmate who carries around a window to smash over his enemies' heads. Flemgem spits massive amounts of snot at his enemies in order to blind them. Bueno Excelente is just some guy who sneaks up on his enemies and then SAs them. Dog Welder is a crazy person who welds dogs to people's faces, and Friendly Fire is a hero who can shoot energy beams but is incapable of hitting anything he aims at, usually hitting his teammates instead. They are led by Sixpack, an alcoholic who pees himself and then attacks people with a beer bottle. Shockingly, this team has not gotten a big budget movie, and all of them were killed after an encounter with the mini-angled ones, with the exception of Sixpack, who suddenly manifested reality-warping powers to defeat the villains and save the world. Number 2. The Neo Knights. After having great success publishing comic books based on Hasbro's line of G.I. Joe toys, the two companies collaborated again to create the series that would give much-needed backstory for Hasbro's new line of toys, the Transformers. A lot of the Transformers mythology came from these comics, but due to the rights of certain characters remaining with the comic book company, not all of the elements were brought over for the television series or subsequent films. One of these elements is the superhero team, the Neo Knights. When the Autobots returned to space, leaving no one to protect their longtime ally, GB Blackrock, he decided to bring together a team of superpowered humans in order to fight any Decepticons that caused trouble on Earth. The members are Circuit Breaker, a woman who was paralyzed in an encounter with the Transformers and has developed a special suit that allows her to walk as well as fly and shoot repulsor beams. Also on the team are Thunder Punch, a man who can enlarge his feet and hands and punch with heightened strength, Rapture, a woman who can cause any sentient being to shut down and enter an elaborate fantasy, and Dynamo, who could channel the planet's latent energies. They are extremely obscure, only showing up in the original US and UK Transformers comics, and due to Hasbro having the rights for most of the Transformers and Marvel owning the rights to this team, they are likely to remain so for quite some time. Number 1. The Forgotten Heroes. They may have more appearances than some of the other teams on this list, and some of their members are relatively well known, but with a name like the Forgotten Heroes, how could they not end up on the top spot for this list? The team consists of a bunch of DC heroes who all stumbled upon ancient golden pyramids. When the heroes tried to report what they had found, the US government disavowed them and ruined each of their reputations to discredit them. Immortal Man brought all the heroes together and filled them in that the pyramids were part of a scheme by Vandal Savage to kill Superman. They formed a team together and teamed up with the Man of Steel to stop Vandal's plot. The team lives up to its name with members like Atomic Knight, Ballistic Congo Bill, Cave Carson, Dolphin, The Ray, Vigilante, and Resurrection Man, as well as a few slightly more well-known heroes such as Rip Hunter, Animal Man, and Rick Flag.